Folks, Tim Kawakami, longtime columnist over at the Mercury News, made a tweet talking about the built-in attack mob that Floyd Gephardt seems to have on Twitter toward people. And a number of people who have been involved in that attack mob I blocked. Same for Facebook. Some of them tried to be friends of mine. But that aside, I want to take those of you, because I've never told the story in one video, on a brief trip of what I've endured since Mark Davis asked me to produce a stadium plan, which is what I did do. First, when I made a preliminary spreadsheet, I took a look at it and decided to float it, right, and see what the reaction would be. And got a number of interesting responses, including one from a blogger who I will not name, who is known for focusing on stadiums. And I appreciated the feedback at first, and I even said to him in a private message, hey, here's my number, call me. In fact, I actually later said that in a tweet, because, you know, ideally, since we were kind of playing in the same stadium, if you will, you know, love to work with him, right? But instead of calling me, he took to attacking me on Twitter, and it kind of, let me take the "it kind of" out of my sentence. It basically boiled down to, hey, if I can't figure it out, you can't. And I thought, really? Why? First of all, I'm not, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I'm not looking to form a development team. I made the mistake of saying that I wanted to be on a team with someone, changed my mind. I'll explain why I did in a second, because I didn't publicly note that. But I loved and love the position of being pristine. That is, I have the time to work on this because I run my own company. It falls in line with what I do. It falls in line with the Oakland baseball sim world that I developed. It falls in line with the experience that I gained going all the way back to grad school at city planning, actually undergraduate school at Texas Arlington, when I focused on city planning and made a buttload of models and learned how to do all kinds of fiscal impact analysis and economic impact analysis. Okay. After you do that for almost a generation, there are a lot of methods and technologies that are just stuck in your head. Approaches. So, coming back to my explanation. On Twitter, this particular person really began to get belligerent. And I have a ton of Twitter followers. This person has little. And I didn't want to subject my ton of Twitter followers to this meaningless conversation in the sphere of things. So I started to get concerned. And then, at that time, I had my Twitter system synced in such a way that if someone favorited a tweet, I got a ding, right? Well, this person got so upset that I wouldn't answer all of his questions. He was just throwing out just random BS questions, right? No question that actually challenged my revenue stream. In fact, he proved that the revenue stream I identified and created and my idea was robust. None of that. He got upset that I wouldn't just meet his kind of, let's try this question, throw this, throw that out, whatever. Meaningless stuff, right? That he started favoriting all of our subsequent tweets and our previous tweets. And I could hear this ding, 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 ding. And I thought, this is hilarious. Then I started to get a visualization. And I thought, what would it look like? What does it look like if this person is actually sitting there making an action that causes that many dings in so short a time period? Like ding, 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 ding. That's what it sounded like, right? And this is the visual that I got. And I thought, oh my God, this guy is nuts. So I blocked him. I had to. I just had to. Because baseline normal behavior is, let me call Zinni, we'll have a conversation, I'll share with him my thoughts, we'll make this adjustment, that adjustment, work together, come up with this, and we move forward, right? But when a person behaves the way that he did, couldn't do that. So, move that out of the way. Then there were the so-called Raider fans. Some of them would say Oakland sports, some of them not, some of them who I thought were all together. You know, one person that wears face paint I thought was part of Save Oakland Sports. The other Save Oakland Sports people say he's not part of us. Soap opera, drama, stuff. I talk to everybody. Then there were, within that group, a group of black men who would friend me on Twitter, on Facebook, and I accepted, but then they would use the friend specifically to just throw pot shots at me. Never met these persons in my life, okay? Didn't actually know them. And I thought, after a while, why am I putting up with this? So, blocked them. You know? And when that dynamic starts, you begin to think differently about how people are structured up here. And it also takes away from the fact that you presented and created an idea that works. In my case, I had an investment banking firm that I cold called, analyzed my spreadsheet, and they gave a 7-person deal team. Now, no one ever stops to think, why would an organization take that much time on their own without being paid for something out of the blue? And it's because when all the flotsam and jetsam is pushed aside, I created a very detailed spreadsheet that I'll bet you 99% of the people that have ran across it never bothered to look at it in detail at all. In fact, the only 1% that I can think of are the people that I sat down with, and I can't say who they are, to look at it. And we went through it. And even of those, only half that group actually paid attention. It's very detailed and it's very tedious. And I think that's part of the reason why you get people who just say things. They don't want to actually go through the work of doing it, which gets me to my other point. No one else has done any work. You've got Floyd. Well, not really Floyd, it's his people, because Floyd doesn't have a feel for the numbers of his project. He just doesn't. Whereas I have a feel for mine, intuitively, because I created from scratch. I created the equations and the calculations and everything else, including the bond amortization schedule, okay? I created something. It's easier to destroy than it is to create. And so you have all these people, some of them who want the Raiders to come to LA, some of them who are jealous that a black guy came up with an idea, some of them who were pissed off that I would dare mention race. I got that from, I think, very recently, third hand. It was Dr. Death, as he calls himself, and he's questioning that. Look, you never tell a black person that what they experience isn't racist. Particularly if, and he hasn't gone through the same thing. You have no idea. To do that, when you do that as a person, you're automatically racist. I'm just saying that straight out. You do not do that to a person at all. Because racism to a black person looks different from a white person. To a black person, racism, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, is not name calling. It's being excluded. It's being not paid attention to. It's being ostracized. I've experienced all of that in this. So to any black person looking at this, it's classic racism. Here's the other thing. Other blacks practice that against other blacks, particularly if they in some way see that black person as a threat to the victimization that we're taught exists throughout. In other words, hey, this guy made it, so if this guy did it, there's got to be something wrong with you and it can't be race. Well, no, that's not true at all. There is racism, but sometimes you have to fight through it to get your point. So if it wasn't those guys, then there were the people who claim they're Raider fans who call me in long distance who seem to forget that when they put their phone number out there, I can look up and find out who they are and where they're located and report them. Yeah, that crazy. So one guy from Texas, I had a business, identified the business, said, hey, maybe you would like for me to say something positive about your company. Oh my God, you forget who I am. Oh my Lord. I'm not kidding you. And for what? Because, again, think about this. Because I came up with an idea, right? Because I came up with an idea. I mean, there are the journalists who claim to be journalists who don't talk to me because they say I'm not credible. Here's something else, folks, and this goes into the whole race issue. It's very common for someone to look at a black person and say, well, that person's not credible, particularly if they're white. That is a common standard practice, and it is a fact. But what makes it more laughable is when the person has worked for 3 of the last 5 mayors of Oakland, wrote the memo that led to the creation of what is now the Best Buy and the Home Depot in Emeryville. And I did so as an intern, who sat on the Alameda Base Reuse Committee because Alameda County Supervisor Keith Carson put him there. Me. Who brought Forest City to Oakland, only to stand by in horror as Jerry Brown took what was going to be a shopping center idea and the next Times Square in America built in Oakland and changed it into just a common apartment complex. I watched him do that in horror after I worked tooth and nail to bring Forest City to Oakland from scratch, cold call them from scratch once again. And I met with them at the International Council Shopping Center Spring Convention. Now, if all of this is making your eyes glaze over and then someone tells you, I don't have enough experience, you can tell them, man, I'm not credible. You can tell them they're full of it. Because I've had to deal with this kind of comment from, a radio talk show host from a declining radio show in Los Angeles, a guy who's an affable college student who wears face paint most of the time, and random people who I've never even met who act as if they know me but have no idea who I am. None of which knows anything about calculations or formulas or spreadsheets to the point where they actually sit down and do one. All right? Let alone say, hey, look, I did mine. Zinni, you got yours. Let's collaborate. I'm just explaining to you what I've had to deal with. And all of this because I came up with an idea. And I keep coming back to that. It wasn't like I started, a new kind of army or something like this, and I've got, 100,000 troops or something like that. No, I created an idea at the behest of Mark Davis with Mike Silver with NFL Network, my longtime friend, as witness. So you're going to tell me that because I did that and then had to deal with all of this crap, that's not racism? That's nuts. From my perspective, it is. It is. Okay? So, and I say that for this other reason. I'll double down. First of all, there are an infinitesimally small number of black folks in journalism and media. Really small. And of the people that I've talked to, a significant majority of them have been black. 3. Okay, actually, Harrison and one other person, and then Tony Bruno, who's white. Okay, and then of course there's Jason LaConfora, who tweeted it out, and Mike Silver. But they did tweets, not full reports. Although Mike wanted to do something on NFL Network, he wanted to have me on NFL Network to talk about the plan. So that's an asterisk. Okay, but my whole point is outside of that little field of people, nothing. So ask yourself this other question: what good does it do a so-called journalist to manufacture consent such that my proposal, my plan, which calls for no public money, not even new tax issues, not even an increase in taxes, nothing that generates its own revenue source from itself, what Mayor Libby Schaaf asked for, why wouldn't a true journalist want to ask me about that? I don't care that a person gets upset that I said that their approach was racist because of this. Again, how black folks look at the world, how we're treated, and if you don't want to be part of that, all you have to do is call and say, hey, Zinni, let's talk about your proposal. Now, if a person doesn't do that, then I would say, well, are they being paid by Floyd? Oh, no, I'm not being paid by Floyd at all. Okay, well then why not? Well, they say your thing isn't, they who? Ask me about it. Again, inquisitive journalists do that. That's what they do. Thankfully, there have been Raider fans who've asked the question, and I've been happy to talk with everybody and talk with them. But I just have to explain how absurd this whole thing is. It really is nuts. So what that I came up with an idea that works? Why is that a threat to someone? Let's take Floyd Gephardt. Floyd, when he said at the Montclair Great Oakland Democratic Club that the Raiders called him about my proposal. He said that in public. He said he told them, hey, take Zinni's idea, dress it up as your own, and use it. And that's what I told him. And I said, sure, why not? I'm not seeking money. I'm seeking